So I want to talk a little bit about this topic of happiness because I did a talk recently, and whenever I do these talks, there's always an audience member who puts their hand up at the end. There's usually two questions that come up, and I'll first focus in this video on the one question that's the most common question that comes up in my talks. I do a number of different talks. My background is in spiritual psychotherapy, understanding what the mind is, going beyond the personality, and seeing what's there, what's still. I do lots of coaching one-to-one and within groups, and I get invited to do many talks in corporates about understanding what the mind is and relating that sometimes to the corporate world, but also from a humanistic level. What does it mean for me to be human? How far can I go as a human? What's my human potential? So this question that always comes up, this number one question that comes up is, how can I be happy? How can I be happy? And there's three things that I always say back to the audience member, whoever asked that question, because there'll be others in the crowd also thinking the same question. Say, thank you very much for this, but I need to understand, how can I be happy? Three things that I always ask are, first of all, how do you define happiness? What's your definition of happiness? And does that relate to everybody in the room? If you stood up and said, hey, look, this is what I mean by happiness, does that person sitting next to you, do they think exactly the same way as you? Is it a universal truth what happiness is? Because if it's not universal truth, not for everybody, perhaps the definition for you could also change over time, right? So when you're a kid, going to a sweet shop and buying some sweets might be in your definition of happiness. You might have a little bit of money in your pocket, and going to a sweet shop and buying some sweets may not be the definition of happiness, right? It might not be that thing that you're looking for, it may be something else. So this thing of happiness, how do we define it? Because if it's not still and it's not constant, it can constantly move. It can constantly change, right? I know there's a bit of a paradoxical view in that, but it is an oxymoron in itself. It's something that constantly changes, and that is what I'm trying to define and get hold of. Secondly, when I talk about happiness, why am I not happy right now? What's stopping you from being happy right now? Because if I'm asking the question, how can I be happy? That must mean that I'm not happy right now. Something is missing right now, or more often than not, there's a feeling that I have somewhere in my body, in my heart, in my gut, that makes me feel like something is missing, or I feel trapped, right? I can't achieve that thing that I'm looking for. But once I achieve it, then I know I'll be happy. And that brings me on to the last point that I always ask back to the audience, is why are you chasing it? Why are you chasing this thing called happiness? Right? Because we've been ingrained with it. Since we were brought up, the things that we watch, the movies that we watch, media, parents, society, friends, I'm on a journey of happiness. That's what I'm trying to achieve. I want happiness. I want to be happy. Why are you chasing it? Why are you chasing this thing called happiness? Think back. Let's use our own logic, our own lived experience. So everything we talk about is about lived experience. What's your experience of being happy? Remember that toy you got when you were 12 years old for your Christmas present or for your birthday present? Do you remember that toy, first of all? If you don't remember that toy, that says something. If you do remember that toy, is it still bringing you happiness? Maybe it is. More likely than not, it faded away. So why are we chasing that thing that constantly fades away? So this is my three-pronged approach. Whenever I get asked this question, how can I be happy? How are you defining happiness? Just spend a moment trying to think about that. Secondly, what is this happiness thing that I'm chasing? How long does it last? And lastly, why am I not happy right now? What's making me feel trapped? What's making me feel like something is missing in my life? What is that thing? If I sit with this and these three questions just for a moment, it may shed some light on this journey of happiness that I've been told I need to chase, or I think that I need to chase. And we can go deeper than that, is to go to who is the one that is thinking this is the thing to chase. Who is the one within you that is thinking that? Because I tell you what, it's making us feel miserable trying to find this happiness. So until we meet again, stay blessed. And we will continue the conversation and explore a little bit more, and perhaps even talk about the second question that comes up.